Thanks, Declan and Ronan, for meeting us here today. As you know, Ashbourne Golf Club is celebrating 25 years this year, and as you've been involved in the construction and maintenance of the course ever since, we thought it would be a good idea to meet you and talk to you about your memories. Declan, if we can start with you, and those of us of our vintage will be well aware of your success as an amateur golfer in winning 6 championships, 2 of which were the Irish Close. And it's ironic that we're in Baltray today, the scene of 2 of your East of Ireland championships. Talk to us about how you achieved those and which gave you most pleasure.
Well, Gerry, thanks for reminding me about all of those. What gave me the most pleasure was winning at Baltray, simply because ever since I was a kid I watched other people play in the East and always felt I'd like to win that one. Now the other ones were special as well, but to win at the East of Ireland and the 18 fairway lines, 6 deep with all your friends, it's very, very special. So it's a long time ago, but I still remember it.
Who was your toughest opponent over those years?
Oh, there were many. I'd say Pat Mulcair was one of the very best. Arthur Pearce, Gart McGimpsey. And when you played against those guys, it was a pretty level playing field, and it was hard to figure out who was going to win. Somebody was going to play better on the day, but there would never be much in it. Yeah. So I'd say there was 10, 15, and you're always going to leave somebody out, but they could all play. Right. Nowadays, they think it's harder nowadays, but I'd say most of our Ryder Cup players came from my era, and they were all amateurs at one stage.
Okay. And if we turn now to your golf course design and how you become involved in designing and constructing golf courses, and in particular how you got involved in Ashbourne Golf Club.
Well, from an early age, I was always involved at Greens Committee level in Bettystown, but I had no desire really, or no thoughts of becoming involved in it as a business. But then a guy called Richard Silwell, who was superintendent in Royal Dublin, and he was very, very good, he formed a consultancy company and he ended up in Bettystown some days. And I struck up a relationship with him, and eventually we found we were on the same wavelength, and he asked me, seeing as he was snowed under with work, could I help him out and do a few visits? So I said I would, and then he came and he said, I have a small golf club down in Kilkenny, Callan, the home of Edmund Ignatius Rice. And it's only 9 hole, but they're going to do 2 new greens. Would you be interested? I said I would, but if I was going down, I would do 2 sand greens. And this was unheard of on Parkland golf courses. So I explained to Richard why I wanted to do it that way, and he said, yeah, go ahead. So we went down. I contacted Des to see if he was interested, and he was. And we came down and we did it. And it worked out well. So the first USGA greens in Ireland were not Mount Juliet and was not the K Club. It was a 9-hole golf course in Callan with one greenkeeper working on it. So not many people know that. How I got involved in Ashbourne, Ronan Kelly's father was very friendly with Louis Noonan, who was the main mover in Seapoint. And Louis convinced Ronan that maybe he should do the same, build a golf course up there. And Ronan contacted me, and I met him one Saturday morning. And it was very funny, it was a frosty morning. And I was about 20 minutes late, and Ronan wasn't happy at all. And I said, this is a very touchy guy. And but it turned out we got on very well after that. But that's how I got involved in Ashbourne. It was as simple as that.
Good. And what was it about the location of the land in Ashbourne that made you think it might be suitable for a golf course?
Oh, I loved it the minute I saw it. An awful lot of our powertown sites are quite flat and no really distinguishing features, not much change. And when I walked in there, I saw the river, which unfortunately was in the wrong place. We had to move that a little bit. the stream that comes down, I'm talking old holes now, I don't know the new ones since Ronan redesigned it, but from the stream from the third green and the type of escarpment that ran right down through the golf course. You don't get that in many places, and it's a different soil type there as well. And the top half was flat, but I knew we could do something with that. There were enough mature trees there just to take the bare look of the site. At the 17th there were trees, and along the 14th tee there were trees, and you know there was a lot of interesting stuff in it. Now you had to add to it, but at least you weren't starting off from nothing, you know.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I liked it.
That's that, yeah. And during the course of the construction, had you any concerns, and what obstacles did you encounter along the way?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of concerns. See, it's very different nowadays. Back in the early 90s, the expertise to build golf courses wasn't there because nobody did it before, really. The plant hire guys who were used to building roads and sites for housing and football pitches and that type of thing, so everything was to a level, and they had no experience of the shaping or that was required. And then if they did carry out shaping like that, they were inclined to trap water in places, you know. They just didn't understand the job, and that was the most difficult part of it, because you were asking them to redo work that wasn't just right. And they were wondering, well, I'm doing it twice, am I going to get paid twice? Okay. And then you have an argument, well, you didn't do it right the first time, and that caused a lot of problems. And the weather wasn't good that year either, but we got an early start in Ashbourne. We started at Christmas, because strangely enough there was a drought, and you don't normally get a drought in December, January. So it gave us a bit of a head start, but the concerns were we had the date to finish, and we had to meet that date, as you well know yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, if I can say, you started doing construction work before any contracts were signed.
We did, yeah, because we trusted the people. We haven't said it before, but when Ronan Kelly's project didn't take off, we thought it was dead in the water. But a few of you got together, and we were amazed at the number of people you got to pay up 2 years before anything they were going to play any golf. And we said, these guys can get things done. So we were quite happy. We knew how keen you were to go ahead, and we knew how successful you had been in garnering memberships. So we had no problem starting without a contract.
And how did you manage to deal with a committee that didn't have any experience in building golf courses or designing golf courses, and some of them who may have thought they were golf course designers themselves?
That's a very good question, Gerry. I don't want to offend anybody, but I probably ignored them. I remember, I tell a story about Sea Point once, where the chairman came in and told me they had a new secretary manager starting, and he would probably want to do things differently on the golf course. And I said, well, what expertise has he got? And he said to me, well, he's a very regular golfer. And I smiled and I said, I'm a very regular flyer, but I would never go up and tell the captain what to do in a bumpy flight. So I don't expect him to tell me what to do. So I think it's natural. Like, I remember being in Ashbourne one day, and there were a few members discussing Charlie Redmond taking a penalty that I think he might have missed, and they were all saying, you know, what he should have done. And I said to myself, well, if they can tell Charlie Redmond what to do, they've no problem telling me what to do.
Okay.
So I expected it, but I didn't take much heed of it. And that's not arrogance on my part. You know, people don't realise that greenkeeping is a science, agronomy, and it's a difficult science that extends to many different disciplines. They conflate it with keeping their garden at home. It's a totally different thing. But I think it's a reasonable stance for them to have, even though it's not a correct stance from my point of view. So I think you just have to take the brickbats and get on with it.
Yes. I'm sure Charlie will be delighted to be reminded of that penalty miss. So,
yeah. Oh, well, he scored plenty of them.
He scored plenty, too many. To finish with, on a light-hearted note, in the recent interview that you did in the Irish Independent with Tee to Green, you describe yourself as being hot-headed. You said that someone advised you want him to count to 10 before you answered the question. However, you said that didn't work for you. Just wondering, have you found a better way since? Or perhaps counted to 20? Or we better leave that to Ronan to answer.
Look, I know I've been sparky most of my life, but I'm quieting down a little bit now. Maybe I'm not as agitated about things, but I suppose counting to 20, if somebody questions my integrity or my abilities, well, then I won't get to 2, never mind 20. So, but on the other hand, if it's something very serious, I'd be very calm. On the golf course, Ronan will tell you I'm one of the calmest people you could meet. I never threw a golf club in my life. I never broke anything in the golf course in my life. I just take it as it comes. But, you know, people can get under my skin, but it's more when it becomes personal. If it becomes personal, well then the explosion isn't far away. But I'm not that involved anymore, so people at Ashbourne don't have to worry about anything like this.
Thank you, Declan, for that insight.
Okay.
Ronan, if we can turn to you, when did you decide to become involved in this business, and what qualifications are required to be a successful course designer and course manager?
Thanks, Gerry. I suppose I've always played golf, you know, from a young age, from kind of 3 or 4 years of age. I was introduced to golf because of Dad's involvement with the game and Mum's family involvement with the game. And I always had a grow for the game. And never really took the game too seriously, or never took a career in golf too seriously, being honest. But in '88, I think it was, when Dad started in Callan, as he'd mentioned previously, it was suddenly something kind of real at home. You know, that we lived in Drogheda at the time, excuse me, and there would have been plans on the kitchen table and all of that kind of stuff. So I would have been very aware of what was happening. But aware more than anything else, I wouldn't have thought about it as a career. Dad'll kind of laugh. I think when I was thinking of doing polymer sciences or something at college, and he quickly talked me out of that. But I think it was really in 1990, I'd say I was at, or 1991. I think I did my intercert in 1991, and in between exams, I would have been working on the golf course at Sea Point and the grow-in of the golf course and cutting greens and fairways and tees, and I just kind of fell into it naturally. So from that, I kind of decided, yeah, I could make a career out of this. I kind of like it. I like the combination of being outdoors and a little bit of office work, and I wasn't really thinking about design at that stage, Gerry. It was no more than just golf course management and maintenance and that type of thing. So the kind of closest course that I could get to it in Ireland was agricultural science in UCD, which Dad had also studied. So I studied that between 94 and 98. I finished, I think, my last exam in June of 1998, and I think about a week later, Dad was very kind to pass the mantle of Ashbourne Golf Club to me, and I've been kind of there since. You know, I say, like a week after I finished in UCD, I was on the golf course, and then I subsequently, after that, I think it was 2002 to 2003, I decided that I wanted to, because we were doing a lot of design work at the time, and I knew that I needed to get a good grounding in the principles of design to be able to kind of practice that with any kind of proficiency as such. So I decided to do a master's in golf course architecture in Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, and that kind of stood me in good stead, because I kind of came back to Ireland, and at the time we were actually doing a new 18th green in Sea Point, which I would have worked on the plan of that with Dad and the construction of it, and that was in in a time in Ireland where there was a lot of golf course design working on, and between 2003 and 2007 we would have been very busy with design work. So it kind of it proved itself to be a good decision to kind of do it, and it just gave me a more in-depth knowledge of all the aspects of design, and I kind of now use that in combination between the agronomic knowledge and design knowledge. You're kind of using both of those almost in every kind of day of what I do.
And if we fast forward to last year, where you designed and managed alterations to our course, where you made changes to 4 holes, talk to us about how you went about this, and was it something you had in mind for some time?
It definitely wasn't something that we had in mind, Gerry. I suppose as everybody who'll be watching this, or all of the members of the club know, that it was definitely something that was kind of forced upon the club. The loss of the 3rd hole is something that will be spoken about for a long time, because it's such a kind of iconic hole of the golf course, such a good strong hole. So it was quite daunting to be involved in something at Ashbourne that would mean that we'd lose one of the best holes on the golf course. So it definitely didn't have it in mind. But the fortunate thing for the golf club was that we lost a hole in an area where we could make some small alterations design-wise to accommodate a new solution. And that was very fortunate. As everyone will know at this stage, the first hole was routed through the practice ground. And then with the rerouting of the golf course, that the 7th hole became the 2nd and the 6th became the 3rd. We could change the old 2nd into the 4th as a short par 4, and change the old 3rd into the 5th as a good par 3. So we were very lucky that we could kind of move everything across as such to make it happen, and leave the old first hole as the range. So we were lucky with the project. And the concern would be that if something were to happen further down the line with another boundary, we mightn't just be as lucky, because the room isn't there to be able to kind of to move holes across. And
I know you're someone who doesn't rest on their laurels. And what plans have you in place for this winter program? And if money was no object, what changes would you propose for the course over the coming years?
Well, I think this winter, to be honest, Gerry, it's about taking a breath. I think everybody in the golf club has had a big year. It's been a tough year. Like we started that new construction work on the 25th of September last year. So we're not even a full year on, and we're playing the holes. So it's been, the design and the construction lasted up until the end of November. Seed was dropped in November. You're trying to grow in through the winter months, which is not easy. We got a very tough spring. So we kind of got a dry spring, and it was kind of mixed with very kind of heavy downpours, and it got wet kind of later on in the year. So it's just been a very tough year. And with any kind of construction work, a few old drains, stone shores, stuff like that kind of sprung up throughout it. So the growing of those holes has been tough. And it's really starting the new first fairway is starting to come good now. The 4th fairway is pretty decent, but again, it's starting to kind of come good. But as a result of that work that would have gone into the golf course in that kind of small, kind of confined area last year, I'm not saying that other things suffered, but it took time away from other work. So this winter, for me, kind of haven't agreed the winter plan with Ronan and the Greens committees yet, but it's about taking a breath, having a look at the golf course, and refining what we have. So there's trees that need to be pruned. There's stakes around the golf course that are a bit dilapidated. That every stake in the golf course could be replaced really. Distance markers and fairways are a bit messy looking. So that kind of attention to detail work, Gerry, because the golf course is maturing nicely, the trees are maturing nicely, and they're starting to kind of frame the holes at this point in time. So it's really about refining the product that we have, attention to detail, and I think that will kind of hold us in good stead next year, because even around the new works, there's still a little bit of tidying up to do down around the pump house, to the right of the new 5th green, in the kind of scrubby area there, that needs to be kind of tied up. So there's lots to do in that. And I think from a kind of wish list, if you'd kind of magic wand and you were to turn around and tell us that we'd £1 million to put into the golf course or something like that, the kind of Achilles heels of Ashbourne, especially the way climate has gone and weather has gone, are definitely the bunkers. You know, the golf course drains pretty well. There's been a lot of work put into drainage, a lot of money and investment put into drainage over the last number of years. We're in a fairway sanding program, which kind of keeps the integrity of that. But if we get any kind of periods of heavy rain, the bunkers really let us down.
Yeah.
And a number of years ago, we did a pilot bunker on the right-hand side of the 10th green. And even this summer, we've had some real heavy downpours where all the bunkers, every bunker in the golf course has been flooded. That one has been fine. You know, so that's the template of what can be done with the bunkers. The problem with all of these things is it costs money. I think that bunker costs in the region of €7,000. So that's a big thing. Tee boxes are still maybe a little bit small, and the level could be addressed, could be better. They're a little bit uneven in places. So I think the new tees that have been put in show a good template for what can be done there. And from an aesthetical perspective, the one thing that I feel with Ashbourne is that, and as Dad kind of alluded to it earlier, the one thing that would have drawn him initially to why the golf course, there was potential for a golf course in Ashbourne, was the river that runs through the golf course, which is a fantastic asset. But the way that it is at the moment, it's quite overgrown. It's an asset that I think that we haven't realised as a club. And I think at times it can detract a little bit, just because it can be a bit messy. So when you drive in the entrance and you look to the right-hand side, there's a great potential to be looking down a well-maintained river stroke stream that kind of runs and meanders through the golf course. And it's quite heavy and overgrown at the moment. So there is potential to do that. And I suppose last year we would have done some work down at the 14th green to show that, again, as a kind of pilot program, that we did a stretch from the 14th green up to the weir, and it's all been regraded, and we can now cut it, and it's much tidier. It brings the river into the golf course, whereas before I feel like we're kind of turning our back on the river a little bit. So I think between regrading areas of that stream, it's just so that we can maintain it. The new machinery that we've bought, has a better capability of maintaining those slopes than some of the old machines. And I think so regrading some of that stream in places, and then in other parts, if there's kind of rock revetment done, so there's a little bit of it done beside the 11th green, but I've always felt that the stretch for about 100 metres from the bridge back towards the 12th tee, if that was done in a nice kind of rock revetment, it would really add something to that hole. Like it'd give a whole new kind of dimension to it. And it could be done for not silly money. Like a lot of that is getting a skilled shaper, which we've done before, hiring in a machine. And it's amazing what could be done in a couple of months on that river. The only difficulty with it is that if you're trying to do it over the winter months and the river gets high, you're in trouble. So like a lot of that would have to be done in the kind of summer months. So you'd have to just kind of weigh up the impact that could have on golf. But that would be if I had a kind of magic wand and you gave me £1 million, Gerry, bunkers, tees and the river.
Don't ask me for the millions. So you and your company have been involved in managing and maintaining other courses throughout Ireland. Is it difficult to take ideas and visions from one club to another and implement it?
I don't think so, Gerry. Like every golf course is unique. I know that obviously they kind of broadly break down into links golf courses or parkland golf courses, but within each of those genres, each golf course is unique. And they're all respond to their own environments or their own situation or landscape or whatever it happens to be. So there would be ideas that you would pick up from one golf course and try and implement it onto another golf course. But by and large, you kind of treat each one as you find them, probably like children, Gerry, you know, like it's,
Okay.
you kind of, they're all different and they all need different solutions and different approaches. And like when you're dealing with golf course, say in a parkland situation, you know, soil type is so different, you know, like if you're looking at Ashbourne, which is a very heavy soil, which is it's kind of a specific soil type. We're involved with St. Margaret's, which is just across the road, a completely different soil type. So it's much more fertile soil, drains much better than Ashbourne would drain. And then we're looking after Grange Castle, which is the other side of the city, and that's completely different again. You know, so they're so different, but I think because, say for argument's sake, Ashbourne and St. Margaret's are in such close proximity, on a day where there could be, you know, a heavy downpour of rain and one golf club rings another club and going, are you open today? And, oh geez, we're closed today, and God, we're open today. And that's kind of an illustration of how golf courses differ, you know, so they really have to be kind of treated as you find them. But there's certain, visually and design wise, there's certain things that you'd see on golf courses that you go, yeah, I'd like to be able to kind of implement that somewhere. I like the angle of the way that green sits, or how that bunker is associated with that green, or how the kind of river runs a certain way. Or so from a design wise, there would be definitely aspects that you try and incorporate if you could kind of see it in another golf course.
Right. Thank you. Thank you to Ronan and Declan for your time here and your insight, and thank you for your contribution to Ashbourne Golf Club over the last 25 years.
Thanks, Gerry.
All right.